Hey Andrew, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
What is your background? What did you do before and what are you doing right now?
Sure. I started a company called Bradford and Reed College. The big thing that we did was online greeting cards, and that, of course, is very viral. When someone sends out a greeting card, they send it to a friend who hopefully will come back to our site and send it to their friends, and so revenue from that came from lead gen. So while you were sending out a greeting card, we said, do you want to sign up to Time Magazine, or do you want to take this offer or that offer? And we sold different parts of that business about, 10 years ago at this point. Took a nice long break, and then when I came back, I started a site called Mixergy.com where I invited, at first, entrepreneurs who I used to work with to come on and talk about how they built their businesses, people who I saw build their businesses. I came on to interview them so that they could talk about how they did it, and now I'm interviewing their friends and friends of friends and complete strangers, all successful entrepreneurs who talk about how they did it. So,
How did you come up with the original idea? Were you the first one?
I was the first person to ever interview entrepreneurs this way. No, you know what? There are a few people who are doing interviews this way. None of them, from what I can see, really have survived. The problem is that it takes a lot of time, and it doesn't really produce a lot of money to sit and do interviews with entrepreneurs. At least not the way most people do it. But I had this sense of mission, and I had the time, and I had the ability to do it. The idea is, too many people in this world who talk about how to build businesses have no idea. They've never done it before. They're big know-it-alls who are really good at running their mouths because they practice. All they do is talk about how great they are and how great their ideas are. Real entrepreneurs are too busy working. So they don't have time to go and teach others how to do it. So the idea behind Mixergy is we bring a bunch of them on. We have them teach how they get their traffic, how they got their idea, how they grew their business, how they grew their revenue, and so on, how they sold their companies. And it's information like you could never get anywhere else. I mean, really, when was the last time you picked up a business book? And there are thousands of them. And go through the airport every day and you see others that pretend that they have the solution to every problem you have in business and they're going to make you rich overnight. When was the last time that one of them said, hey, you know what? I spammed. Or, hey, you know what? I cut a corner. None of them do because the guys who preach about how to build business never give it to you straight. The guys who talk about in their biographies never have an incentive to be open. But here on Mixergy, we have a small enough audience, a nice little community where people could be open, where it's other entrepreneurs who are listening who will call your bluff if you're not open. So we have a nice environment where people can be open.
I noticed that you always ask entrepreneurs about their revenues and their business models. Are they comfortable with that?
Sometimes they say no. I even tell them in the beginning of the interview, you don't have to answer any of my questions. And I shut up, and after I ask a question, and they often will say it, and sometimes after the interview, people will say to me, Andrew, can you edit that out? I didn't want to say it. And I say, no, we don't do any editing. If it's there, it's there. Before we go on, I've got to say this too, that I don't just ask revenue because it's like business porn. Yeah, it's fun to see how much revenue, and you feel like you're looking underneath people's clothes, and you're getting this inside view. But it's more than that. We are in a space that will allow people to brag about how much money they raised, where we'll chronicle every funding round and dissect every round of funding, and we don't talk enough about revenue. And I remember when I was building that company, Bradford and Reed, all I wanted to do was build my revenue, and I felt like such an outsider in the tech world because all I cared about was revenue, and all they cared about was raising another round of funding. And when all those companies exploded because they couldn't get their next round of funding because this house of cards that they were building fell down, I finally looked around and I said, you know what? I actually have some cash in the bank. Maybe I wasn't nuts. And today when I do my interviews, I don't want every entrepreneur to tell me what their revenues are. If they're not comfortable, I don't want them to say it. But I do want to emphasize that revenue matters because it does. Because when you have revenue and more importantly profits, you have a barrier. You have protection from some investor deciding that this year he doesn't want to invest, but last year he did, from thinking that your industry's sexy now, but not sexy tomorrow. None of that. You have real customers, real revenue, real profits. It's not the only way to do it, but it's a way that no one else talks about, and I want to give voice to that issue, to revenue.
When it comes to inviting people for an interview, how do you normally do this?
Would ask for referrals. There's this book by a guy named Bill Cates, not Bill Gates, but Bill Cates.
Right.
And The book is basically for insurance salespeople and other salespeople who are selling similar products. But he teaches them how to do referral marketing, how to get every customer to refer other customers. And I read that book and I said, you know what? That's how I'm going to get other interviews. And I'm going to ask my interviewee referrals. Excuse me. And in my old interviews, you can actually hear me on camera say, "Thanks for doing this interview, but I've got an important question to ask you. First of all, how valuable was this interview to you?" And they'll say, "Yes, it's great. I want to help the world. You know, I got excited about telling my story. You reminded me about things that I forgot." And then I'd say, "Well, the important question I want to ask you is, who do you know who's just as inspiring, who's just as accomplished as you are, maybe even more so, who you think I should be interviewing, who should tell their story the way that you did?" And then they'd give me this list, and I'd write it down, and I'd say, "Well, after this interview, can I call you up and ask you or email you and ask you for introductions?" And at that point, they go, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And then I'd follow up, and they'd introduce me, and that was a big, big help. That's one of several things that I did, but that's the Bill Cates referral formula that just works. He actually goes into more detail on the formula, but that's all I can include in this interview. But what I say is, in any business, look for referrals where possible and have a system for getting it.
How do you choose people for a program?
The big thing that I look for is someone who has a big success in the past already. The story's been told, not the story. Where the where the story has a beginning, middle, and end. I'm not looking for people who are going to build the future. I'm not looking for people who are in the process of building a great company. I'm looking for people who already built a great company. I want them to sit and quietly tell me how they did it. And the reason that I want them is because one of my other pet peeves in the tech space is that we always want to see what's the next thing. Do you know the iPhone 5 didn't come out the day that, I won't even give the guy's name, two of the biggest reviewers talked on a podcast, and they started thinking about what the iPhone 6 should look like, what the next generation of batteries should look like. You know, it hadn't even come out. It was just announced, and they were already thinking about the next one. Nothing wrong with that. Our goal as entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs is to invent the future, and we have to think about what's going to come in the future. We have to obsess about it. Nothing wrong with it. But there's something missing if we don't take a step back and say, why did that guy succeed? What did he do right? Now that the story can be told, we know how it worked out. Why did he do it? Why did he increase sales the way that he did? How did he make the decision to launch this product? What did he leave out of his first version? How did he get his first customer? What were his mistakes? Those are questions we, I think, in a quiet environment, need to step back and ask and learn so that we don't repeat those mistakes as we go to the future, so that we can, frankly, grub some ideas, steal some ideas, learn from those ideas, and use them to build our own companies. And that's really important.
What was your favorite interview so far?
You know what? I don't have a favorite interview. I just have interviews that come back to me in my head that I think about a lot. Interviews. I don't have a favorite interview. What I have is like these experiences that embed themselves in my head, and then they suddenly come out. Like if I interview an entrepreneur who talks about how he added a feature and then another feature and another feature and another feature, and it's time for me to think about, well, should I add this thing? Not even thinking, I remember, wait, that guy, he kept adding it. I better not. I should take a step back. Or if I'm nervous about talking to you, I think, hey, you know what? There was one guy who I interviewed who was nervous, and he said, he was nervous about talking to girls, and he said, I'm going to talk to 10 girls every day, 100 days until I'm comfortable talking to girls. And I think to myself, okay, if he's comfortable doing that, then I will do as many interviews as I can until I feel comfortable with what I'm saying, until I feel like I can express myself clearly. And that's the way it is. These stories, when you hear entrepreneur stories, they embed themselves in your brain, and they come out at times that you just never would have expected, times when you need them.
How many people work in your team these days?
There are about 8 people. They're all working as freelancers. There are no full-time people. I work in this office by myself. I'm actually going to be moving from here to another office where I'll work by myself. But as long as we have Skype and other services, we can keep staying connected and helping each other.
How does your business model work?
Business model is this. I decided that I'm not going to be based on advertising. Yes, we'll run some ads, but the model needs to be, if the audience likes it, they should pay for it. And if they don't like it and they don't pay for it, it means I've got to change. And so the model is you can watch all the interviews that I do free for the first few days after I publish them. But if you're not quick, if you're not a fan who's checking the site every day, then you have to pay a membership to have access to all the old ones. We also do courses that are extremely popular where I bring entrepreneurs on and I have them teach how they systemize their business, have them teach how they hire people, have them teach how they stay focused and how other people can stay focused and do all the things that they do. And those courses are also part of the membership. And if you're a Mixergy member, you get access to all of them. At this point, I should say go to mixergypremium.com.
Who are those guys who watch your program, and how many of them are there?
I don't really count the numbers. Thankfully, I don't. I don't. I'm trying not to count the numbers. I'm trying to focus more on my passion and my ability to ask questions and extract useful information. Which is to say, it's strong, but it's not gigantic, unfortunately. Actually, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I don't give a rat's ass now. I want to improve the product. I want to be the best at this. I want you to sit down and know that if you're listening to an interview, you're going to first of all be inspired and remember, oh yeah, that is why I'm risking my family. That is my family's financial health. That is why I'm risking mortgage. Or that is why I'm staying up in the middle of the night on a Saturday night instead of going out with my friends and doing all the other that young 20-year-olds do. You should feel that way, that inspiration when you listen to an interview. Yeah, I'm sacrificing a lot and do what this guy did. He's reminding me what I always wanted to do. That's the way you should come at my interviews. You should also, while you're getting that inspiration, walk away thinking, hey, there's an idea that I can use. Oh, wait, he overcame his shyness that way by talking to 10 women. Maybe I can overcome my shyness about making calls to strangers by calling 10 strangers a day. Whatever it is, I want you to walk away with that. That's the big goal. And so you were asking about the size of the audience. I don't care. I need to inspire them, and I'm doing a better job, but I'm not doing as good a job as I would like. I don't want to die knowing that this is the best that I've done. It's got to be way better than this.
Any features to be added to Mixergy website anytime soon?
It's got to be this, but it's got to be much better. I think that we can do better interviews. I think we can do the courses much better in a way that gets you more actionable stuff, more actionable information. Right now, I think we're killing it with them, but not compared to my vision for how good it can be. You really should know when you're walking into a Mixergy interview about how to get traffic. You should know exactly what you need to do to grow your traffic. And we need to make it easy for you so that you can't say, I know what to do, but I'm a failure because I couldn't do it. If you're a failure, then I'm a failure. I need to make sure that you can do it.
What does it mean for you being an entrepreneur?
The advantage is that this vision that I have, I can actually express. You know, I saw what I'm doing at Mixergy when I was a teenager, when I was as young as I could remember. I imagined doing something like this. Now I get to do it. And can't think of another way that I could do that.
Any disadvantages?
You know what? There are a ton. The disadvantages are that when you're down, it's not easy to show it. Because if you say, man, I think I'm a failure, I think it's not working out, people lose faith and they're not as eager to work with you. And then when I'm back up, they don't believe that the up is real. They start to think, oh, you know what? He's acting that he's positive, but I remember seeing that he was negative, and that's the real thing. So you can't really show the range of emotions. Where if you're going into an office and you're bummed and you say to your boss, I just can't do this, or your boss sees that you're slacking off and just hanging out on the computer, they'll get you back in line. There's someone there who'll get you back in line, and it's not the end of the world if you feel that way. For entrepreneurs, I think it's a lot different. That's a big disadvantage. The biggest one, though, I think, is the financial disadvantage. For a long time, you don't make as much money as your friends do. And worse, there's a big risk out there. The risk is that you can just go bust. And I can't tell you how many times I've had that. Even at the beginning of Mixergy, where frankly Mixergy was not going to destroy my financial life. I mean, I don't think so. The expenses were low. My expenses low. I could have kept funding it off of Brad Reed's success. But I kept thinking, well, if it fails, how much money will it have taken down? How much opportunity cost will I have wasted on this? Either we don't talk nearly enough as entrepreneurs about the times that we were freaking the hell out when we were worried that everything was going to go to hell, that we were worried that we were going to lose every dollar, worried that we were going to lose face. But it's true, and that's one of the most painful things.
How many days per week you work? I can see something new on your website every day.
We publish 5 days a week. I actually record more interviews than we can publish. I think we might need to publish more than 3 or 4 times. But at the very least, we do 3 interviews a week and 1 course a week. And I used to do an interview a day plus a course on Tuesday, so it was really doing a lot. And then what I decided to do was do all my interviews on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, interviews and courses, record them all, and then edit out over a series of days. But yeah, I will not stop, and the reason is that I want to frickin' be the best at this. I don't want any other business interviewer to do a better job than I do. In fact, I'm not even competitive with them. I'm competitive with my vision of how good these interviews should be. And I'm getting better. I'm much more confident. When things don't go my way, I'm much more resilient. When I notice that I take an interview in the wrong direction, I used to just in my head go, what is wrong with me? I can't do this. I screwed up. Now I'm just snapping right back, and I shift the interview back where it's supposed to go. If I see that someone's mad at me for asking a question, I fix it. I know how to get them back on track. And I think that comes with time. And anything that you want to do well, I still believe you need to do over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's how you keep improving.
What did you enjoy doing most when you were 8, 9 years old?
And 8, 9 years old, I don't know, being grumpy. I actually felt like there was so much I wanted to do in business, even as a kid, but they don't let you do much of that. They don't allow you to express your financial and entrepreneurial creativity. They do not encourage you. They meaning the schools, they meaning society. I mean, frankly, I remember as a kid, I saved up about $20,000, which would have been enough for a down payment on a house in the rented it out. Vision. Frankly, in rent, probably would have failed. I should have been able to go and sign an agreement and buy it and put down my able to, but I couldn't do it because I was too young. I should have been able to, is this 7-year-old, 8-year-old buy candy and sell it in school for a profit, but my teacher shut me down. Being an adult is great that you can do it. And frankly, today now, being a teenager, you can do that same. You can start an online business and screw the rest of the world.
Since you brought up this yourself, what do you think about the role of academic education nowadays?
I'm going to even go back as far as the pre-university. You know what? Over the last week, teachers were on strike in Chicago. They are on strike because of what they want. When was the last time you saw teachers on strike for being upset that students aren't getting what they want, being upset that students are just being moved through the system? You never see that. They're after themselves, their own interests. The school system stinks, and the teachers who are glorifying, everyone loves teachers supposedly, most of them are scumbags. They're out there for themselves. They don't really care about the students. They've given up, and frankly, maybe they've given up because because we have a system in place where they could give up. But for the most part, it's just a disappointment.
Do you think the whole system could be fixed?
Why fix it? Why not create an alternate system on the side? One where someone could go to school for a long time and say, you know what, this is just BS. I'm not learning it. That's what I did. That's what a lot of us who are listening to this interview did. We used to go home and read what we wanted to. The teachers would blab about their nonsense. They would deal with the behavioral issues. They would deal with the whatever else is going on in the school. We would go sit through it, and then we'd come home and we'd really learn about life, like either because we had a side job where we would learn it, or because we'd read books about it, or because in some cases people had family that they were lucky enough to learn about business and life through. Or others were basically just being babied, and then in college or afterward, and they really learned it.
Do you think an online university can replace a traditional education?
Yeah, I think we're not there yet, but yes, I think that's the future. Now, I'd love to say we're there because, frankly, I'm in the business of selling that stuff, but I don't think that we're there yet. I think it'd be much better, and eventually we will, but we're not. But we're getting there.
Now it's time for table tennis set of questions.
Okay.
Jobs or Bill Gates?
Bill Gates.
iPhone, BlackBerry or HTC?
Oh, I love the iPhone. Oh, BlackBerry, HTC, iPhone, please.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Going to a party or staying home?
Both.
Fruits and vegetables or fast food?
Fast foods, fruits and vegetables.
Which car, BMW or Mercedes?
BMW.
Egg or chicken, what came first?
Both same day.
Being married or not being married?
Married.
For those people who are watching us right now and want to start up their own business but have some doubts, what would you advise?
Um, I used to take these when I was dating. I know you want a quick answer, but I got to tell you this: that when I needed to learn how to date, one of the things that I decided was I needed a wingman, and I would post ads on Craigslist saying I need a wingman, and these guys would come out with me, and I'd say, look, our goal is to talk to 5 groups of women. If we talk to 5 groups of women, one of them, one girl from all these groups is going to give you her phone number or go have a drink with you somewhere, or maybe something will happen, or maybe want to take you home. Something will happen. But you have to talk to at least 5, and your chances are going to fail on the first shot. The first group of people you're going to talk to are not going to be the ones. So I said, but if we go to 5, something good will happen. So let's go into that group over there and fail. Just go in there and fail. And so we'd walk over and be prepared to fail, and sometimes we'd do okay, and sometimes we would really fail. But we'd start things off, and we'd get the momentum going. Same thing for anyone who's not an entrepreneur right now. Get in there and fail. Just start something so that you can fail. If you start 5 companies, chances are one of them is going to want to sleep with you. If you start 5 companies, chances are one of them well. Hey, this is Andrew from Mixergy, especially here for In2up.